What's going on, guys? We're back at it again with another episode of Combos with Dr. Andy on TruCapacity Talks with your boy, this guy. If you can see me, you just saw what I did. If you can't, you're lame. Go on YouTube. Today, we're going to talk about navigating your nutrition, really more nutrition, but let's expand that to not just be what you put in your mouth and you're eating, but also what you're drinking and the things that you are doing when you're in social settings, right? We're talking movies, friends' houses, birthdays, engagement parties, weddings, watching games. Football season is upon us, right? This upcoming weekend, we got some games popping. What do you do when you're in those positions? How can you stay on track for the goals that you have that we're not going to say that you need to have, but the goals that you have, you can't just be looking at Monday to Friday or Monday to Thursday to attack those goals. 5 out of 7 is a C minus. Okay. Like, let's not get it twisted. That's still a shitty score. So let's open it up. And Andy, I guess walk them through where the problem potentially lies and the question, or maybe the problem we're trying to solve and the question that comes up when we are in and around our friends.
Yeah, probably the biggest thing, James, would be peer pressure, right? So I know myself, I hear a lot. If people are on I don't want to say restricted diet, but they have a goal, right? Whether it be lose weight, look a certain way, gain muscle, you name it. I usually get the phrase, well, I was really good this week, or I was really good for the past however many days. And then, well, I went out with my friends last night, right? And you mentioned a few examples, ball game, right? Concert, birthday party, etc. So I usually hear well, I was blank, right? And that's usually just as valid as a statement that starts out and then has a but in it. Nothing before the but matters, right? So that's usually kind of the phrasing that I hear most often. You can probably, give your own intake as far as what patients say to you, but I think a lot of people just, and before we hopped on here, we kind of discussed this a little bit, but they have this, I don't know if it's a subconscious thought or mindset where when they leave their routine, and I'll I guess insert like house, when they leave their house or their work or their normal routine, they tend to think that their issues stay at those places. When I say issues, maybe their weight loss regimen or their prescription of what their goal is to obtain in their health journey. They'll leave that in their normal routine and they'll step out of that for a second, for a night, for a day, for an afternoon, and then they'll come back thinking that had no implications or had minor implications. And I think people need to understand that the further you are on the health and wellness continuum, the further you are closest, or the closer you are to sickness, the less of those detours you can take. And so one of the biggest things is a lot of people think that if something's unhealthy for you, it's a carbohydrate. There are tons of carbohydrates that are incredibly healthy for you in the form of veggies, potentially in the form of fruits, although fruits can be a little bit more fortuitous with like weight gain. But one of the people tend to think like, oh, I'm just going to have one burger. I'm just going to have one drink. I'm just going to have one side of fries. I'm going to have one fried dough, whatever it is, one piece of cake, you name it. That can shift and delay your fat loss goal by up to 3, maybe even to 7 days if it's alcohol. So that's what I hear a lot of. People use the excuse of, well, I was with my friends, and just side note, nobody ever, unless they have a gun to your head, right, makes you do anything. And even if they did have a gun to your head, James, like we said earlier, it's like somebody has a gun to your head. First, call the cops. Well, first run away, then let the authorities know, and then find different friends, right? Because nobody's making you open your mouth and chew on the unhealthy food or drinking the unhealthy beverage when you go out and hang with people in a social setting. Social settings don't need to be the downfall of still obtaining and achieving your goals. I think people kind of think that being healthy is unfun, and those two can't be synonymous. Like those two things cannot be parallel.
Yeah. Well, first, I'd like to get a strong fuck you for telling me that I can't eat fruit while I'm trying to lose weight. And then number two, I eat a lot of fruit. So middle finger right to you, my hater.
Thank
Um,
you.
But I would say that I think that a lot of people, when you're talking about social settings, whether it be, hey, post a Saturday WOD with partners where like people go and they get like boozy brunch, right? A lot of times there's societal pressure or peer group pressure around certain activities. And like you're the weirdo if you're not drinking, right? You're the
Mhm.
weirdo if you're not staying up late. You're the weirdo if you don't want to go on like a golf cart ride at, 1 o'clock in the morning, leaving Tavern 74. Like you're the weirdo if you don't want to do that. And I think that maybe this just comes back down to like that pressure. It's not going to go away, right? But it will change depending on what your friend group looks like, right? Like I don't think there's been a time where I've been like, "Hey Andy, you're fucking lame for not drinking." But perhaps some people at the gym that you used to be right up there with the head coach at, and perhaps at the gym that we coached at, a lot of people might look at you as like kind of the lame or the prude because of how you reacted to those scenarios when there was pressure there, right? Like, oh, you want to come to Kaleidoscope and come get drunk with us? Like, not really. I want to go work out, or like, I'm gonna go hike, or I'm gonna go do some extra patient notes or read up on something that I want to that I know I have a patient coming in for on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that I want to be fresh on. Like I want to do something else with that time. And I think that nobody gets to tell you what you use your time for. But I think that we definitely get it twisted because we conflate friendship with co-signing every action that person takes. There are things
True.
that you're into that you spend time with that I'm like, yo, fuck that. And I'm sure that the same could be true on the other side, right? There's certain ways that I work out that you're like, dude, what are you doing? And then there's certain things that I probably would do that if we went through like a line item of everything, you'd be like, dude, what are you doing? I don't want to do that. Doesn't mean that we don't hang out. Doesn't mean that we don't enjoy each other's company. It doesn't mean that we try to pressure one another to do X, Y, Z. I think that the nutrition side is it's also a hell of an excuse. If you can blame your shortcomings, your inability to stay disciplined, your inability to follow the plan on the situation at hand, or college football, or the NFL, or MLB, or my mom or my grandma cooks and she'd be offended if I didn't eat it. Like anytime you have a scapegoat, it's going to be easier. So I think that everyone needs to get around more people that don't allow victimhood to be a thing. If you surround yourself with people that do not claim to be victims, will not settle for being victims, you get away from that. Get away from that really easy. And nobody is forcing you to eat or drink anything at all. Not a single person is forcing you to eat an extra donut. Eat the donut if you want, dog. Like straight up, you're a human, you're an adult, right? You have all your
Mhm.
faculties. Do what you want to do, but don't be surprised when one donut turns into 20 and 20 donuts turn into another 10 pounds of fat because you've done this every day, all day since you started the first time. It's very hard to have nonsense in moderation. Very difficult to do. Very few people can do it.
The slippery slope. Yeah, I mean, back on the hanging out with friends that try to peer pressure you. You said condone, right? You don't have to condone all their actions if they don't line up with your mindset and goals. You know, yeah. If I had to turn away personally, I've had to kind of change up my friend group. Make it smaller for sure, and that's what you do as you get older. But even just like within certain groups, I'm like, you know what? I know that what you guys are about on the weekends or on the times after you get off work, I'm not really about that, but I can hang out with them in other settings. So like even later today, right? I have good friends that, they're having a birthday party. There's going to be unhealthy food there. I'm going to show up. Why? Because they're my friends and I like hanging out with them, but I'm not going to indulge in any cake, you know? And I'm not saying that, if you do, you're less than I am. No, it's just my choice of not doing that because I don't want to feel the negative effects of what that, and that brings me no pleasure to eat food like that because of how I'll feel afterwards. So, and I think the longer that you do that too, and I want to make this point too, James, is that both you and I have been on this health journey for years. This isn't something we just started last week and we're like, you guys should do it too. No, we've gone through this roller coaster ride of figuring out what works good, well for us. And that's changed throughout the years. So when you remove stimuli from your ecosystem, your body and your physiology and your mind starts to shift. If you remove yourself from social media all the time, you tend not to think about it all the time. So then you don't desire it all the time. Same thing with food. If you don't indulge, you mentioned a donut. If you have one donut, you know, some people are going to have a more deleterious effect for a couple days, right? Someone, James, like yourself, you're probably not going to feel one donut at all, and it's okay, right? But if it starts leading to one donut every day, or even one donut every 5 days, or one a week, that's still, you're setting yourself up for slow progress, or hitting a plateau quicker, right, than you would normally if you didn't do that. So I'm not saying personally, and I know you're probably not saying this either, James, you know, if you have friends that don't line up with your goals and your like your actions, but you still want to be friends with them, just understand, don't let their peer pressure affect you. If that's from like having an accountability buddy, or you just getting a little bit harder between the ears, right, more callous, and just being able to laugh off, if they make jokes at you like, oh, you're no fun if you don't do this, or yada yada. Like, I get that all the time. I just let it roll off my shoulders. And if they end up not wanting to hang out with me at the end of the day, you know what? That great. I can just go find new friends, like a circle that is only going to better me. So, because I think everyone has their circle of friends that do things that they don't necessarily want to do, right? But then they have another circle of friends that do more of what they want to do. You can have both. Just understand that you don't need to condone yourself to be anything but what you want.
Yeah, I think also if you're making a choice to live a certain way, to eat a certain way, to interact with the world a certain way, you can't be so fragile as to get upset when somebody else doesn't want to do the same thing. Because all that makes you do is all that makes you actually is someone that doesn't have an open mind. You do not have to do the same thing as other people do, but by sheer fact of you getting offended when someone disagrees with you, right, and wants to challenge the way that you're living your life, which is oftentimes a projection, right, from whoever's doing it, you should check yourself if you feel some type of way when someone does that to you. Because at the end of the day, they're probably trying to hide themselves from something, or trying to point out something as a flaw in you because it's in them. And like, especially if you're not attacking them, and it says a whole lot about you if you let it affect you. Is it gonna affect you a little bit? Probably, right? But is it something that you should be mindful of? Because if it affects you so negatively that you can't live day to day, or you can't hang out with these friends, then you might want to question the reason that you're even adhering to that ideology yourself. Because if it's if it's because you want to make Andy happy, or you want to make James happy, you want to make Dr. Brian happy, or you want to make anyone happy, like, I can tell you right now, no one really gives a fuck, right? We want you to do what's best for you and what's going to set you up for the goals that you have. Like, if you don't eat donuts, it's gonna be as inconsequential to me as you eating every donut that ever comes in front of your face. Like, it's your life. Like, I don't unless you're a client of mine, you've asked me for help to better your health there. Like, you get to decide, my guy, right? But don't be so fragile to think that everyone's going to agree with you. One of my closest homies, right, Savon Springer, super vegan, right? Thinks he's a motherfucking superhero, legitimately. Thinks he's the X-Men because he's vegan. Loves Savon so much. Fundamentally disagree that makes you an X-Men, right? That eating plant protein makes you an X-Men. Period. End of story. I do not believe it. I do not think that it's the right way that somebody should be eating. If you're trying to have massive muscle gain, if you're trying to have strength gains, what have you, doesn't mean that I feel some type of way about him as an individual. Like, that is your choice, my guy. Just like you get to choose what you watch and what you fill your mind with, you get to choose what you fill your stomach with. And it's not my place. If you want to have a conversation about it, we definitely can. Right? If you ask my opinion of it, willing to give it. But outside of that, dude, I mean, you got to, everyone for themselves has to decide where the line in the sand is, right? Where is that for you? Is that one donut? Is that no donuts? Is that Andy coming to a New Year's Eve get together to watch a game and touching no food? Like, or is it someone coming and eating whatever and drinking whatever? Like, that's an individual thing. No one gets to tell you need to do this or need to do that. Unless you're eliciting help and you're paying for it, then you should probably listen a little bit, right? Or you're just wasting your money. But outside of those scenarios, I think that you should be making your own decisions. Get as much information as you need to make a decision, and then fucking move forward. But also understand that, look, at the end of the day, you've got to live with the consequences, positive, negative, both at the same time, right? Like, you have to live with the things that come with it.
Yeah, I think biggest takeaway for people is yeah, you live in your body. You only get one, right? So don't focus on what other people want you to do with your own body. Right. And I know we've talked about this in previous episodes, get more in tune with how you feel, what your thoughts are, right? How well your these very, very superficial, easy markers are to track, like such as sleep, mood, hunger, right? How your aesthetics kind of seen from the outside. Okay. If you have bad looking skin, dragging looking eyes, right? That usually means that something internally is not functioning as it should. So that's a sign. If you have a headache, yeah, your body, that's your brain crying out for help. So listen to it. So stop trying to, like you said, James, condone and go the path of what other people want you to do because of their own insecurities. And the fact that if you do something different than them, that threatens their own validity and what they're doing. So choose your own path. That's callous your mind. Callous your mind.
And at the end of the day, you can take everything we say, you can take nothing we say, you could take and cherry pick whatever you want. Like, it's your life. Again,
Right.
Believe what you want to believe, listen to what you want to listen. We're just here to share some things that have helped us, some things that we feel important to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do with that what you will, right? I hope that regardless of what you choose, that you're happy and you're pursuing something that's meaningful, right? Those two things. And that's not necessarily rooted in an ideology or religion or what have you. Like, are you pursuing something meaningful? Do you have a meaningful life? And are you enjoying, even if it's kind of the suck sometimes, are you enjoying the path, right? Macro enjoyment. Okay. So I hope that helps. If it doesn't, that's cool. Find another episode. Don't know what to tell you. This is number 23, and we're going to keep rocking and rolling. We will be at 2000. Watch out, Joe Rogan. We're coming for your ass. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace.